dedicating a part of our family time program this evening with Althea, who is here to talk about a very special event. And of course, as I've said before, Althea, it's good to have you with us here on Family Time.
Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm sure what you're going to be talking about lends itself to family.
It certainly does.
Right. So tell us a bit about yourself, Althea, and what you do. I mean, a lot of people in JFM know you already, but you're wearing a different hat this evening.
I am. My daytime job is actually that of Carers Development Officer for Gloucestershire County Council. So what that means is really, and when I say use the word carer, it's very much opportunistic to be able to come on to family time, because carers obviously exist within families. But the term carer, really, what I'm talking about is people who look after their loved one, be they elderly, have mental health problems, a learning disability, be physically disabled, or have a long-term illness.
Right.
Those are the people we're talking about. We're not talking about the carer that gets paid to provide the support. We're talking about relatives who are looking after family and friends. So an example might be a husband looking after a wife who needs help to get washed and dressed and provided meals, or a son or daughter that might be doing that. So that's what we mean by carers. So let me give you a little bit of background to carers.
Right.
Because in nationally, there are actually 6.4 million carers, and there are 61,499 adult carers in the county of Gloucestershire itself. So we're talking about a huge number of carers. But my event is actually about black and minority ethnic carers. So we're talking about anybody from the Afro-Caribbean community, the Asian community. We're also including Polish and Chinese within that. So we're talking about those groups of carers today. Now, let me give you a little bit of background on the black and minority ethnic carers as well in terms of statistics. They actually say the state £7.9 billion a year, which actually equates to 41% of local authority spending on health and social care. So that's a significant amount of care that black carers are providing. The figures currently for the UK are 503,224 black and minority ethnic carers currently in the UK looking after a loved one. That's the ones that they've identified as being carers, and I'll talk to you about identifying carers.
Do they get any kind of financial support?
Right. These are all unpaid. Some carers get a financial support. Some carers are entitled to the carers allowance, but that's dependent on what the person that they're looking after is receiving. Now, benefits isn't my strong point, but certainly all that's they're entitled to is a carers allowance, which equates to like £57. So when you look at somebody who might be looking after somebody for 60 hours a week, that's less than £1 an hour. So you can see what people are providing to keep people at home and to prevent them going into hospital and preventing further burden on the health and social care budgets. So we need to support carers, is what I'm saying. They're saving huge amounts for the economy, and they're investing at the same time because some of them are also working. So what I'm looking at is, as I said, black and minority ethnic carers. We recognise, there's lots of research, there's tons of research to say that black and minority ethnic carers face certain barriers when it comes to accessing the support that's available to them, in the same way that the non-black carers can access support. We call some of those carers hidden carers, but there are also some that are doing the job, have no idea of what the support is out there that's available to them. The other side of that is that because they've no idea of the support, they don't access the services, people don't get to come in contact with them, and therefore they don't have a voice. So there's two parts to what we're looking at. We're looking at trying to improve the support to black and minority ethnic carers, but also to trying to provide a voice for them, because the big thing is that health and social care commission services on a regular basis, and that will be happening again soon. But what we want to make sure is that black carers don't get missed out of that equation. And in order to ensure that that doesn't happen, we need to hear from them. Now, one of the biggest things about commissioning, which is what we call identifying the needs and buying services and delivering services appropriate to need, is the fact that, as I said, black carers don't have a voice. And I'm very passionate about that.
You mentioned barriers. I would love for you to say, what are some of those barriers?
Okay, because there are a number of barriers. Some of them are really the obvious, like language barriers, for example. So people tend not to come to the services because they think it's not going to be appropriate to them, or they can't access them because the service because they can't speak the language. There are issues like, for example, people not identifying themselves as carers, not understanding that they are a carer. That's a very big thing, particularly within the Asian community. The word doesn't even exist in the Asian community, the word carer.
Okay.
But again, people don't understand that it's a duty. Nobody has a duty to care. People do it because at the kindness of the heart or the need to do it because there isn't that service to pick up the slack.
Would you say it's also cultural within the BME
That's another
community
thing.
where we tend to take care of our loved ones because this is what, pretty much our community is like.
That's right. Now, the problem for the cultural perspective on caring is that it can be dangerous because whilst there's this understanding that we look after our own, and some of us do that, it's kind of within us to do that, we can't do it without the support, without the right advice and without the right information.
Right.
Okay, the other thing is that actually, when you look at the figures, there are many people from the Black and Irish ethnic community who are caring and working. And I'll just give you a quick figure. Nearly 250,000 of Black and minority ethnic carers, that's 241,320, are actually juggling work and care. So you can imagine how difficult that is. And there are 105,109 carers. That's over 21% of the BME carers in England. They're actually providing over 50 hours of care. So you imagine a working week. And trying to balance working care. That's got a huge impact on the individual in terms of the health.
Indeed.
BME carer health is far worse than the white carer health. The figure there is 35% of all carers are actually in poor health from the BME community.
Physically drained, I would
Physically
imagine.
drained. But they're also the ones that are balancing work and care.
Drain,
And so you can see when you start totting at the figures, when you look at poor access to services, cultural perceptions of whether we care or not. Again, we as Black and minority ethnic communities, we don't quite understand that, as I said, it's not a duty to care. We do it out of kindness of heart, but there is support out there available, and there's support that can be developed.
Indeed.
The right type of support needs to be developed. And I think the other barrier, of course, is that we don't have the culturally appropriate services in many instances available. But one of the things that is really, if I touch the misconceptions about the extended family support, as I said, we're having to work and care. So there's a real issue around the availability of people from the Black and minority ethnic community being available to do that support. But the other big thing is a lack of a Black and minority ethnic carer voice. Now, if people don't say what they need and how they need it and the best way of that service being delivered, then it won't get developed.
No,
it won't get developed. And which is why, for me, as much as I see we need to get the right services in place, we're not going to do that unless we talk to people, unless people talk to us. So I'm tasked with that particular role. And as this part of my job, I'm working in partnership with the Together Trust, which is the mental health trust in Gloucestershire, and I'm also working in partnership with Gloucestershire Carers, which is the voluntary organisation that is there to support carers right across the county of Gloucestershire. So we're working in partnership to develop and deliver a one-day event that is going to look at those very barriers to what I call inclusion, to being involved. And we've called that event Exclusion to Inclusion because we see Black carers sitting outside on the edge, on the periphery, and we want to be able to bring them closer to the services that we provide and look at how we can support them to develop a voice. It's difficult to sell that concept to people because it's new. For many, it's new. For the organisations, it's new. But what we want to do is to start to work with the organisations in Gloucestershire that are there to support Black and minority ethnic carers. There are some specific ones, but then everybody's job is about supporting carers. You don't actually have to be a Black and minority ethnic organisation to do that. But what we want to do is to start with those organisations, to break down the barriers, increase awareness, and to be able to get them to start thinking about, well, what could they put on in their organisation to raise awareness, improve support and improve access, and they can link those carers then into the big organisations that are actually there, funded and have a statutory duty to provide the support. That's what we're trying to do, is try to do the low-level work to break down the barriers, to raise awareness and bring the organisations and those carers that link to those organisations closer to the big statutory organisations. When I say the big ones, I mean health, social services, the Together Trust, the big ones that are there to support carers.
That's the word, you heard me?
GFF.